about your dad. He was a real hard worker, moved right up the ladder. Well, there ain't no guarantees here. You get what you get, and when the line breaks down, have a cigarette. Is anybody out here like me?
All right, I got a short story for you. This is called Factory Head. I imagined myself just walking off the line, yelling one final statement over all the machinery, but I was never coming back to this effing place. I was always doing test runs in my mind like this, never having the courage to actually go through with it. Besides, I needed the benefits, my parents were finally proud of me. What else was I going to do? I just crawled out from under a 10-year addiction to alcohol and drugs, which seemed fun as a kid, but had eventually led me to this uneducated emotional wasteland, working the night shift at an explosive airbag plant in Mesa, Arizona. I chose to work nights as a way to hide from the world, found a whole crew of other misfits with the same motivation. We all had our hidden reasons for being there. On a night that started out the same as any other, our cell lead Lance called brakes since the line was down, so I walked out back to have a smoke and found Big John over by the trash compactor. I hated that thing. I kept having the same nightmarish thought of what it might be like to get crushed in it. "You can't stop it," Big John said, which freaked me out a little since it sounded like he was referring to the compactor and how it might finish the job on me at any moment. "He needs to keep it going if we're going to get out of here," Big John continued. He was complaining about our new line tech, good old Cowboy Al, who could care less about keeping the line going, let alone following any of our safety requirements. We all wore static-free heel straps so we didn't set off any sodium azide, along with eye goggles and green smocks to protect us from burns, even when there ever was a blast, which there had been. But good old Cowboy Al wasn't worried. With his steel-toed Wrangler boots, matching belt buckle, and cowboy hat, it was a Western-style line disaster waiting to happen. He didn't talk much either. "He won't even answer when I ask him why we're down," Big John complained. "He's worthless. Gonna be here till goddamn who knows when now." A few other workers gathered around me and Big John, giving their version of Al's latest stupid behavior. When someone started up the trash compactor just for fun, I couldn't take it. Another work friend, Kim Janke, was over near the exit door, so I walked over by her to finish my smoke. "Feels good to know your mind's made up, even when you're wrong," I said nervously. I was always dwelling on some new philosophy. "What are you talking about now, McDonald?" Janke asked, with her usual disgusted look. She was cool, just sarcastic as hell, which I liked about her. "We see it all in hindsight, right? All the things we missed that were so obvious before." Janke took a drag and exhaled. "They got another drug test coming, McDonald. Be careful." "No, really," I said, having found the confidence to finish my point. "Like every time I look back at things, I can see where I was being an idiot. Then it happens again, but I only see it clearly after the fact, just like before. Which means I'm probably an idiot right now and don't even know it," I laughed. "I always knew you were an idiot," Janke said. She put her smoke out in the safety canister next to me. I could tell she was just joking, but my heart still sunk when she said it. Every nerve in my body tensed up in some strange hurt reaction it was going to take years for me to sort through. The damage was done. A simple joke from a friend was now seen through the lens of 1,000 unprocessed insecurities of my own making. All the emotions I had avoided over the years were coming home to roost. Janke could see my hurt reaction. "Just messing around, McDonald. Geez," she said. "I know, it's all right, Kim. I'm just..." Right then, Bennett leaned out the back doors. "Lance says we're back up," he yelled. "You're on igniters, McDonald," he added. "Igniters? I'm on filters," I insisted. "We're changing stations. Everybody, let's go," Bennett yelled. Pat Bennett was one of our line managers who was so full of shit I rarely believed him, so I decided to check with Lance before I went back. Needed to talk to him anyway. My mom was battling with breast cancer, so I'd need at least one day off a week so I could be with her. I didn't think it was that much to ask. Our normal work schedule was a relentless 10 hours a day at 6 days a week, even longer when we had delays. I figured they fucking owed me. Lance was finishing up a call when I entered his office. "Why aren't you out there, McDonald? You're on igniters," he said. "Okay, well, that answers my first question, but you need to get out there. The line's back up," he insisted. "Okay, but I really need to talk to you. It's about getting some time off to be with my mom. Seriously, McDonald, you need to get out there now. Come back and talk to me after lunch if you have to." "Okay, you're right. I'm sorry, Lance. I'll come back later," I said, trying to sound agreeable. Fucking asshole, I thought. I needed to see my mom. That station was the worst. How safe could it be? The igniter station. Jesus. Big John was always telling that story about the guy getting his thumb blown off that very same station years ago. "Never found it neither. Still pieces over there." He always finished the story in that same horrible, nondescript way. He knew what he meant, though. Lance told us it all happened before OSHA cracked down on the company, that there hadn't been any accidents on that station ever since. At the same time, he always complained there were too many regulations. When I got to the igniter station, Bennett was there running it for me. "Didn't believe me, eh?" He smirked, threw a bag of igniters at me. He'd only been a line manager for 2 weeks and seemed to have forgotten we were ever friends before that. I'd even given him a ride to work for a while. I started to ask him how things were going, but he was already giving a guy next to me on the rivet station a hard time. New job had gone to his head. "Come on, Gack," he yelled for some reason. The guy's name was Bobby, actually. I looked around for any remaining evidence of that guy's dismembered thumb, like I always did on that station, but didn't see anything. So I scooted my rolling chair in close enough to work the foot pedal and hit the button and got started. That was all there was to it, really. Part comes down the conveyor, locks into place. You hold the igniter on top, press the pedal till it screws the bolt in tight from underneath, hit the green button, and repeat. Every station other than the inspection station was just as brain dead as this one, and for the first 6 months I worked there, I loved it. I was working, theoretically, making money, but I was free to think about whatever I wanted. I could go over lyrics for my songs or whatever new philosophy I was dwelling on. I also had plenty of time to think about how bad I had screwed up. I was a nervous wreck, too, so it felt good not to have to deal with people. I was free. Until it dawned on me one extra long weekend shift that I wasn't. I was 24 years old and trapped doing a brainless job that I hated. I'd spent the last 10 years avoiding all responsibility, and I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I'd also just found out my mom was sick. As I worked my station, I thought about what I might say to Lance to try to convince him to give me some time off so I could be with her, which in itself seemed ridiculous. To even have to justify something like that. But I needed at least one day off a week in order to drive the 2 hours up to Cottonwood, where she was living. As lunch got closer, I was getting nervous about the whole thing as my thoughts battled it out to no avail. What if Lance says no? Well, I'd fucking quit then. What if everyone was upset? Well, so what? It was the right thing to do. But I'd lose my benefits. And on it went. After an hour or so, I called Bennett over to run my station so I could use the bathroom. "Keep it moving, Gack," Bennett yelled at Bobby again in the rivet station. "He hit his head on the riveter last week. It was hilarious." Bennett acted like we were old buds again. "I call him Gack now," he laughed. I started to laugh, but felt bad right afterwards. My first few weeks there, I thought Bennett was one of the funniest guys I'd ever met. He was always mean to people, but he was cool to me, which made me feel important, I guess. It was starting to dawn on me that my old pal Bennett was kind of an asshole. He was just like my old drinking and drug buddies, only sober, which meant he was even worse. Same type of people I'd gone on the night shift to avoid. "Bobby's a good guy," I said, and shoved my chair at him. "Hurry up," Bennett snapped. As I walked to the bathroom, I noticed that same lady working on the sewing line. Janky had told me that she had carpal tunnel syndrome in both her hands from doing the same job for so long. I stopped at the drinking fountain, pretending to get a drink, but I could see her pretty close from there. Jesus, there she was, all hunched over the same station she'd been working at for years, probably sewing her millionth airbag. I went back to my station and spent the rest of that evening thinking about my mom. It felt hopeless to save her. I had this idea about survival and evolution being the same thing, but how they conflicted in a way. Like if I wanted to evolve and grow as a human being, I might have to do things that would threaten my survival. But if I just focused on surviving and playing it safe all the time, I'd never be able to evolve as a person. The whole human race would never evolve or even survive, for that matter. I could see the same struggle playing out in the situation with my mom. If I left this job to do the right thing, I was sure to grow and evolve because of it, and things were bound to work out like my mom always taught me. But at the same time, I would threaten my survival not to have any income or benefits. I was sure to lose the love and respect I had gotten for finding a decent job in the first place. I felt stuck either way. "It's almost time for lunch break. You guys are weak," Bennett yelled to motivate us. "Let's get 100 more units before lunch. Come on, Gak." There were nights when I found a certain unconscious rhythm to whatever station I was on. I was able to tune out assholes like Bennett and just disappear for a while. This night wasn't one of them. It was 8 p.m. when our lunch break started. I went straight to Lance's office to talk to him, but the door was locked. He had told us if the light was on and the door was locked, that meant he was in a meeting and not to bother him, so I decided to go off-site for lunch. It always felt like a huge relief to get out of that place for half an hour or so. A lot of people left for lunch like that. The plant was at the top of a mountain ridge, so at night you could see the lights as you drove down towards town. I got a Hot Pocket, some chips, and a big gulp at Circle K, and just sat in my car and ate there. As I drove back up the hill towards work, I remembered how my mom inspired me to get the job in the first place. Right after I got sober, she had given me a Shakti Gawan book, Creative Visualization, and explained how it had been helpful in her life. After a few weeks of practice, I had a dream I was driving up a hill I'd never seen before, heading to my new job, which through a series of unexpected events is exactly what happened. I had been doing custodial work up until then, so I was proud to finally work for a big company. My mom was proud of me too. I went back to work a little early to try to talk to Lance again. Bennett was coming out of his office when I got there, and Lance said he was just headed to lunch himself. "You're on inspection now, McDonald," Bennett said as he passed and then left before I could say anything. He knew I hated that station. I explained to Lance how I came by his office, but that he was busy, and that I'd need to talk to him that night at some point. "Come back at 12:45 a.m. before the last break. Things get slower for me around then," he said. "I'll have Bennett watch your station." "Okay, thanks," I said. I had a few minutes before break was over, so I went out back to have a smoke. Everyone was already coming inside except for Janky, who always waited till the last second. "I'm on inspection now," I told her. "Good, see you over there. What time is it anyway?" she asked as she went inside. "It's time," I said as the back door shut, but I felt like waiting another minute. I took a drag and looked around at all the brick and metal buildings along the back hill that were separate from the main plant. There were floodlights blasting towards me off each one, and the shadows from all the pipes and fences made elongated patterns across the service road where I was standing. I had spent time doing odd jobs in each one of those buildings at some point over the last few years. I could see Bobby along the side of the main building breaking down boxes to load into the trash compactor. I took it as a sign and went inside before it started. When I got to the inspection station, Janky was there doing her job and mine since I was late. "Glad you can make it, McDonald," she joked. Working at the end of the table was a lady I liked a lot named Andy, who was inspecting filters. Then Janky was next, measuring rivets to make sure they were all in spec. And I was on the end, supposedly in charge of looking over each unit from top to bottom as fast as I could. If everything looked good, I'd put my stamp on the barcode and load it onto the cart for Big John to take out to the holding bay. I knew I couldn't dwell on songs or philosophy as much on this station, but what I hated most was putting my stamp, number 138, on each part, since it would trace back to me if there ever was a malfunction. I had told Bennett I didn't like the idea, so I'm sure he put me there since I snapped at him. "Are you really leaving?" Andy asked. I gave Janky a look. "I told her," she said. "If I have to. I'm supposed to talk to Lance. I just need time to see my mom," I said. "I heard about your mom. I'm sorry," Andy said. Andy was one of the line moms. There were a few middle-aged women there who had children of their own and passed that same kind, supportive wisdom on to the rest of us. I liked Andy the best, though. "I'd leave if I were you. This place sucks," Andy said. For the next few hours, I tried to focus on inspecting units as best I could, but I was talking with Janky a lot also. She brought up something about hoping things would work out, which reminded me of another idea I had, so I shared it with her. "I'm tired of hoping for stuff," I said. "It's like gambling, but with other people's money. If things work out, it's great. And whenever they don't, you end up feeling even worse since you waited for people. Instead of just doing things for yourself," I concluded. "What if you can't do it for yourself?" Andy joined in. "Or you don't have any control over something? Why not hope for the best?" she said. "She's right, McDonald," Janky said. "Okay, if you really can't do anything about it, then I guess having some hope is all right," I agreed. "Like you talking to Lance," Andy continued. "He might say no. You have no control over it. So then you need to quit and just hope for the best. At least you'll stay positive while you're waiting," she suggested. "You're right, Andy," I said. There was no point trying to outsmart a line mom. "Any more thoughts, McDonald?" Janky asked. "I'm good," I laughed. It wasn't long after that when Big John came to pick up the next cart full of inspected units. He said Lance was waiting for me in his office and that he was supposed to cover inspection for me. Lance had the door open when I got there. He said to shut it behind me and take a seat. "So, what can I do you for, McDonald?" he asked as he leaned back staring at his computer. I explained what had happened with my mom, how we weren't even sure how bad it was yet, but that I really needed some time off so I could be there for her. "How much time are we talking about, McDonald?" he asked, now staring straight at me. "I was hoping for 1 day off a week, but I'll take whatever I can get," I said. Lance paused for a second and then looked back at his computer screen. "Honestly, we don't really do that here," he said. "What do you mean?" I asked. "It's like one of those slippery slopes, you know. We do it for you, we have to do it for everyone," he said. The whole room seemed to be moving in slow motion at that point. I had contemplated what I might do if he reacted like this, but now that it happened, I wasn't sure what to do. I walked outside and thought about his reaction and still couldn't believe it. "If we do it for you, we'll have to do it for everyone," I repeated in my mind. Exactly. Since that's what people are supposed to do for other people. Jesus. I spent my last break out in my car trying to decide if I was going to leave or not. All the same pros and cons were racing through my mind again, but I couldn't bring my thoughts to an agreement. When I got back to the line, someone told me I was on the rivet station now, so I just went there and didn't even ask why. After a few minutes, I fell into that unconscious rhythm and just tuned out for a while. I was tired of going over it all, unable to make a decision. At some point, the line went down again. Cowboy Al said it was a laser welder, so it might take him a while to fix it. That's when Lance called us all together for a meeting. He told us if Al couldn't get the line going, that we'd all have to stay an extra hour that night to try to make up for lost time. "Let's hope he's still worthless," Big John muttered. I walked out the side door in a daze and sat on one of the benches. I got really angry all of a sudden. That was it, I thought. I'm out of here. But as I walked towards my car, I started having doubts again. That same anxiety and fear I felt when I first got sober was now coming back even stronger. I'd been dreaming of leaving this place for 2 years and still didn't have the courage to do it. And now I couldn't even find the courage to do it for my mom. I was being an idiot right then, and I knew it. I walked back and sat on one of the benches out front to smoke a cigarette. Big John was coming out when I got there. "The line's back up," he said. "Lance told me to come find you." I took a drag and just stared straight ahead. "You ain't going nowhere," Big John said, and sat down next to me. "It's just wrong. They don't even care about us. I gotta get out of here." "What you gonna do, though?" he asked. "There's nothing better out there." "You're gonna lose your benefits," he said. I felt defeated. "Maybe I'll figure something out, still work the same schedule," I muttered. "Just 1 more hour," Big John said. "All right," I said. "Just give me another minute." Big John got up, gave me a look, and went inside. As I sat there and finished my smoke, I noticed the glare from the floodlights coming from the parking lot. The same long shadows crossed over on the ground, only this time it was from someone walking towards me. They were moving so slow, I wondered what was wrong. I was blinded from the glare till I got up close. Then I saw it was the lady from the sewing line. All hunched over, she slowly walked past me towards the entrance. Both her hands were in the same locked position, crippled from all the nerve damage. She was coming back to finish her shift. And that was the sign I needed. Driving down that hill for the last time, even the small town lights looked optimistic.
I can't stand one more day, yeah, it's dying in me. Pray to the gods I knew then, said please God help me. Think about that old man, Big John, said can't you see son, you're walking off this line, right on to another one. There's always someone out there like you, who's dying for the chance to break through. It's built in your factory head, where all your dreams already dead. Is anybody out here like me, who's dying